Good evening. Today I'll be talking about the effects of different genres of music on heart rate and blood pressure. My name is Lathan. I attend Chatham High School, and in the fall I plan on attending Virginia Tech to study mechanical engineering. I chose this topic because I have multiple personal connections with it, one of them being an enjoyment of music. My family also has a history of high blood pressure. This topic could also result in real-world benefits, such as introducing a calming effect, which could lead to alternate treatment methods for individuals with hypertension or hypotension, which is high or low blood pressure. I took multiple studies into consideration while creating my methodology. One study I found excluded participants who had any acute or chronic illnesses. Two more studies excluded participants who had any cardiovascular diseases. Two studies advanced upon this by only including participants who they deemed had normal blood pressure. Various baseline periods were found to be used in order to eliminate any bias from events preceding the study. The baseline periods that were found were 1 minute, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and 20 minutes. Three studies used no music being played as a control group. However, one of these studies failed to properly create a control group, as they still allowed participants to continue on drug therapy. Music has been found to affect multiple different mental attributes. 3 different studies have found that music can help with anxiety and depression. One study suggests that this is because individuals with depression are more open to music therapy. This finding can be very beneficial as it has been found by multiple different organizations, such as the United States Surgeon General's Advisory and the National Research Council, that there has been an increase in suicides and mental health conditions in adolescents and young adults. One study found that music can improve symptoms of severe psychotic disorders, with another study finding that specifically schizophrenia symptoms are benefited by music. Another study additionally found that music can improve symptoms in individuals with Parkinson's disease. The effects that music has on the mind are caused by certain physical characteristics, such as the inferior frontal cortex, which has been found to be affected by music. The inferior frontal cortex aids in judgment and creativity, which could lead to the conclusion that music could be used in schools to increase productivity. It has also been found that how we react with music is caused by hormonal and neurological reactions. Music has also been shown to have an effect on physical characteristics of the body. Music has been shown to reduce both heart rate and blood pressure. These changes are caused by parts of the nervous system, such as the inferior frontal cortex and the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Slow beat music has been found to decrease heart rate and blood pressure, while inversely, fast beat music has been found to increase heart rate and blood pressure. The volume of music also follows this pattern, by quiet music decreasing heart rate and blood pressure, and loud music increasing heart rate and blood pressure. Some genres have been found to have an effect on cardiological parameters, as it has been found that classical music can decrease heart rate and blood pressure, and rock music can increase heart rate. The study that found this, however, failed to test if rock music had any effect on blood pressure. Multiple researchers have done studies on how music affects heart rate and blood pressure, but little research has been done on how certain genres of music affect heart rate and blood pressure. For this reason, my research question was, what are the effects of different genres of music on heart rate and blood pressure? My null hypothesis was that different genres of music are played for high school students, and there will be no difference in heart rate and blood pressure. My research hypothesis was that different genres of music are played for high school students, then there will be a difference in heart rate and blood pressure. I chose my research hypothesis based on multiple studies which have found that music, specifically classical and rock music, have an effect on heart rate and blood pressure. The variables in my study included the independent variable being the genre of music, and the dependent variables being heart rate and blood pressure. The control of my study was one of the groups, which was randomly assigned to 5 people who just sat in silence rather than listening to music. The constants of my study were that the participants were all of high school age, the volume of all the songs was kept constant, and the length of all the songs was kept constant by looping songs which are shorter than 5 minutes. Before conducting my experiment, I obtained permission from both Dr. Jones and Ms. Bowman concerning my topic. Once my topic was approved, I got the 35 participants who were attending either Piedmont Governor School or Chatham High School. I then obtained consent from all the participants and their parents if they were under 18. My next step was to gather materials. For my study, I first needed a music playing device, which ended up being either a computer or a phone to play the music. I also needed a pair of headphones for the participants to listen to the music, which can be seen on the right. I lastly needed a heart rate and blood pressure monitor. The next thing I did was choose a song that would represent each genre, which were country, classical, metal, pop, rap, and rock. I then randomly assigned each participant to a group by giving each genre a range of numbers between 1 and 35. The participants were then each assigned a number which would decide their genre. When participants arrived, they were signed in before being sat down for a baseline period, which lasted for 10 minutes. This is seen on the right. After the control period, baseline heart rate and blood pressure readings were taken. This is also seen on the right. The participant's assigned song was then played for 5 minutes. If the song was originally shorter than 5 minutes, then the song was just looped. Once the song was played, heart rate and blood pressure readings were taken again. After this, the participants were debriefed before being signed out and let go. I then compiled raw data before conducting statistical analysis. An example of the raw data is seen on the right. This is a graph which shows a change in heart rate and blood pressure before and after each genre of music is played. This box highlights the grouping around rap music, which is mostly above 0, meaning that rap music increases heart rate. This box shows metal music, for which the data is grouped mostly below 0, meaning that metal music decreases heart rate. This box eliminates classical music, which is grouped mostly above 0 besides one outlier. This means that classical music increases heart rate. These boxes all show groups for which data is distributed evenly around 0, meaning that these groups do not consistently affect heart rate. This graph shows the difference in diastolic blood pressure before and after each genre of music is played. This box eliminates country music, for which the data is grouped mostly around -10 or lower, meaning that country music reduces diastolic blood pressure by 10 at a consistent rate. This box shows rap music, which is grouped mostly around 10 besides an outlier. This means that rap music mostly increases diastolic blood pressure. This box highlights how the data for classical music is grouped mostly around 10, meaning that classical music increases diastolic blood pressure at a consistent rate. This box illustrates the grouping of the control group's data being around -10, which means that the control group mostly decreases diastolic blood pressure. This graph shows a change in systolic blood pressure before and after each genre of music is played. This box eliminates the fact that pop music data is grouped mostly below 0, meaning that pop music mostly decreases diastolic blood pressure. These boxes show the data for which shows the genre for which the data is grouped on both sides of 0, meaning that these genres do not have a consistent effect on systolic blood pressure. At the significance level of 0.05, the null hypothesis was not rejected for heart rate difference, systolic blood pressure difference, and diastolic blood pressure difference with a p-value of 0.34, 0.28, and 0.15. The p-values being so high means that there is little to no difference between each group. There are no previous studies which were found that test the effect of metal music or rap music, so there are no studies which can back or deny the findings that metal music increases heart rate and that rap music decreases heart rate. In previous literature, there have been studies done on the effect of classical music on heart rate. They have, however, had different results to me, as they found that classical music decreases heart rate, while I found that it increases it. There's also previous studies which can confirm my results that the control group and country music have no effect on heart rate. My findings did support the findings of our previous study, which found that pop music had no significant effect. The results for rock music, though, were different than those of another study which found that rock music did increase heart rate as opposed to my study where it had no effect. Because of the lack of research done on different genres of music's effect on diastolic blood pressure, there are no studies which can support my findings that country and classical music decrease diastolic blood pressure, rap music increases diastolic blood pressure, and that pop, metal, and rock music have no effect on diastolic blood pressure. There are studies which could support my findings that classical music increases diastolic blood pressure. However, these findings actually oppose the findings of my study because they found that it decreases diastolic blood pressure. In my study, the only genre to have any effect on systolic blood pressure was pop music, which I found to decrease it. This finding is different than those found in previous research, where it had no effect. I also had different results than prior studies for classical music, because in my study, participants experienced no differences in systolic blood pressure, while in other studies they experienced a decrease. I also had no difference in systolic blood pressure for country, metal, rap, rock, and control group. My results could be beneficial to many people. One such group would be individuals with hypotension. According to the results of my study, classical and rap music could be used by people with hypotension in order to increase their blood pressure. Inversely, country, pop, and no music have been found to decrease blood pressure, which can help people with hypertension to lower their blood pressure. One of the limitations to my study was the sample size. While I had an overall sample size of 35, the sample size of each group was only 5, which made it hard to be able to consider results without accounting for outliers. Another limitation of my study was not having the ability to exclude participants. Because of time restraints, I was forced to use a convenient sample without excluding any participants. This could have produced one of the outliers in my data. Song choice was also a limitation in my study. I chose songs which I felt represented each genre the best. This is obviously opinionated, so there could have been better songs to represent each genre. Future research should attempt to isolate each genre when testing its effect on heart rate and blood pressure. This would make it possible to accommodate for a sample size big enough to support significance of a genre's effect. Future research should also exclude participants since that was unable to be done in this study, because it would provide for more accurate results. Lastly, future research should use multiple songs to represent each genre when it is tested. This would make it much less likely that one certain song is an outlier for a genre. I'm lucky enough to take many things away from this project, one of them being the ability to plan. This project has taught me how to plan and how to manage my time to get everything done. This will be very beneficial in college where I have much more work. This process has also taught me that there is much more that goes into research papers than I originally thought. This helped me gain much more respect for the papers which I used in my study. Lastly, the study has taught me that I can accomplish much more than I originally thought. This has helped me gain much more confidence in myself to complete work. Hopefully this will transfer to college and to later life because I knew I was able to accomplish this. Lastly, I would like to say thank you to everyone who helped with my study. I would like to start off by saying thank you to Ms. Long for teaching me how to research, along with how to conduct a study, among many other things. I would then like to thank Ms. Maxey, the Chatham High School librarian, and Jennifer Walls, the Danville Community College librarian, for letting me use their libraries as a place to conduct my study. I would lastly like to thank all the participants who took part in my study. Are there any questions? Mr. Talrico?
Yes. Do you think hearing acuity differences could have impacted your results? And if so, how would you account for that in the future?
Hearing what kind of difference?
Hearing acuity differences in.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by acuity?
Basically, is someone's hearing worse than someone else's?
Mr. Talarico asked if I thought that a person's hearing could affect a genre's effect. I think it could have an effect. I think it would just kind of just magnify or lessen the results of each genre. So like for classical music, if it increased it, I think if they hear really well, it would magnify, and inversely, if they couldn't hear well, it would lessen the effect.
Thank you.
Ms. Collins?
You did a great job. Do you think that the preferences that the students had before they came into the experiment, do you think that that could have affected both the blood pressure and the heart rate?
Ms. Collins asked if I thought student preferences could have an effect on the differences in heart rate or blood pressure. I did find some studies that mentioned the effect of like certain people's preferences, and they found that it did affect it. So I think that it would affect it. I think it's just kind of differently there's so many different combinations you could have. Like this person likes country music, so then it would like increase, and it's just a lot of different combinations that I think should be looked into in the future.